First Contact and Hidden Agendas. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the UES Pathfinder. Commander Layla Kenzo stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her gaze fixed on the darkness beyond humanity's reach. The vast emptiness of space stretched before her, punctuated by the distant glow of strange stars. This was the farthest any human vessel had traveled, nearly 30 light-years from Earth, and the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. "Still can't sleep, Commander." Kenzo turned to find Dr. Elias Rivera approaching, the ship's chief exobiologist carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. His dark hair was disheveled as usual, his eyes bright despite the late hour. "Hard to rest when you're making history," she replied, accepting the offered cup with a grateful nod. "Tomorrow we activate the long-range communication array. If there's anyone out there to hear us, they'll know humanity has arrived." Rivera leaned against the railing beside her. "And if they answer, then everything changes," Kenzo said simply. The UES Pathfinder represented humanity's boldest venture into the cosmos, a mile-long vessel housing 500 crew members, scientists, engineers, and a military contingent that governments back home had insisted upon. The ship carried Earth's hopes and ambitions into the unknown, equipped with revolutionary propulsion technology that had finally broken the light-speed barrier. "Commander, to the bridge," came the urgent voice over the intercom. "Priority alert." Kenzo and Rivera exchanged glances before hurrying through the corridors. When they arrived, the bridge was a flurry of activity. Lieutenant Commander Asher Wong, Kenzo's second-in-command, stood rigid before the main display. "Report," Kenzo ordered, sliding into her command chair. "We're detecting artificial signals, Commander," Wong said, his voice carefully controlled. "Not from Earth. They're coming from within this system." Rivera's coffee cup clattered to the floor. "We're not alone." "Put it on screen," Kenzo ordered. The main display flickered, showing a series of mathematical sequences, prime numbers, geometric constants, the unmistakable hallmarks of intelligence. "It's a greeting," said Communications Officer Talia Chen, "and it's directed at us." "How is that possible?" Rivera whispered. "They couldn't have known we were coming." "Unless they've been watching," Kenzo replied, her expression hardening. "Send standard first contact protocols. Inform Earth immediately." Within hours, the source of the transmission revealed itself. 3 vessels emerged from behind the system's gas giant, each dwarfing the Pathfinder in size. Their design defied human aesthetics, asymmetrical structures of gleaming metal that seemed to flow like liquid despite their massive scale. "They're hailing us," Chen announced, her fingers dancing across her console. Kenzo straightened her uniform. On screen, the image that appeared left the bridge crew speechless. The being looked vaguely humanoid, but with iridescent blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth moved oddly as it spoke, yet the words came through in perfect English. "Greetings, explorers of Earth. I am Ambassador Excelsior of the Arxian Collective. We welcome you to the greater galactic community." The next 48 hours passed in a whirlwind of diplomatic exchanges. The Arxians, as they called themselves, represented a coalition of 7 species that had been traveling the stars for millennia. They spoke of peace, cooperation, and cultural exchange. They expressed admiration for humanity's rapid technological advancement and offered friendship. Kenzo maintained a diplomatic facade, but something about Ambassador Excelsior's perfect smile set her on edge. 3 days after first contact, the Arxians invited a delegation aboard their flagship. Kenzo selected her team carefully. Herself, Rivera, Wong, and Security Chief Maya Okafor. The interior of the Arxian vessel was a marvel of engineering. Corridors shifted and reconfigured as they walked, adjusting to optimal proportions for their visitors. Gravity changed subtly between sections, yet never uncomfortably. Everything spoke of technology centuries beyond human capability. "Your advancement is impressive," Kenzo remarked as Excelsior led them toward what he called the Grand Assembly. "We have had much longer to develop," Excelsior replied. Your species has accomplished in centuries what took others millennia. You've encountered other emerging civilizations, Rivera asked eagerly. Many, said another voice. A new alien approached, this one with crystalline appendages and a body that seemed to shimmer with internal light. I am Delegate Vorax. My people joined the collective 3,000 of your years ago. And how many species comprise the collective now? Wong inquired. 23 active members, Selther answered, with protectorate status extended to another 41 developing civilizations. Kenzo noticed a subtle exchange of glances between the aliens. Protectorate status. We provide guidance, resources, and protection to younger species, Vorax explained, until they are ready to assume full membership. In the Grand Assembly, other Arxian delegates awaited. Some appeared almost human, while others defied easy description. They spoke of trade opportunities, cultural exchanges, and technological sharing, all while scanning the humans with eyes that moved too quickly, assessed too thoroughly. That night, back aboard the Pathfinder, Kenzo called her senior staff to a private meeting. Impressions, she asked once the security protocols were active. Their technology is extraordinary, Wong said, especially their matter manipulation capabilities. They're hiding something, Okafor stated flatly. My team detected scanning frequencies throughout our visit. They were analyzing everything, our weapons, our biology, even the synthetic materials in our uniforms. Rivera nodded. Did you notice how they dismissed our propulsion system? As if they were surprised we'd managed it. They've been studying us, Kenzo concluded. For how long, we don't know. But they didn't just happen to be in this system when we arrived. Over the following weeks, the Pathfinder's crew documented everything about their new allies. The Arxians provided star charts, limited technological insights, and cultural data on the collective's many species. They requested permission to visit Earth, speaking of diplomatic relations and mutual benefit. Earth's governments, predictably, were ecstatic. The possibility of advanced alien technology had politicians and corporations salivating. Despite Kenzo's warnings about proceeding with caution, plans were made to welcome an Arxian delegation to the solar system. Meanwhile, Dr. Rivera made a discovery in the biological samples the Arxians had provided. Commander, you need to see this, he said, his face grim as Kenzo entered his lab. I've been analyzing the genetic structures of various collected species. There's a pattern I didn't notice at first. On his display, complex molecular structures rotated slowly. These are genetic markers from 6 different collected species. Notice anything? Kenzo studied the images. They share similarities. More than similarities, Rivera said. These are engineered modifications, identical gene sequences inserted into completely different evolutionary backgrounds. They're being genetically altered, Kenzo asked. Standardized, Rivera corrected. And based on these markers, it's been happening for thousands of years. The older the species membership in the collective, the more extensive the modifications. A chill ran down Kenzo's spine. What about the Arxians themselves? That's the thing, Rivera said. Their samples don't show these markers. They remain genetically pure while the others are gradually homogenized. The implications were disturbing. Kenzo authorized covered scans of the Arxian vessels, revealing energy readings that had been carefully masked during initial exchanges. Lieutenant Chen made another breakthrough when she detected encrypted communications between the Arxian ships. With the help of the Pathfinder's AI, they managed to decode fragments. Integration potential, high. Resource value, exceptional. Resistance capability, minimal. Chen read from her terminal. Commander, they're not talking about alliance. They're assessing us for acquisition. Kenzo's suspicions were confirmed when Science Officer Naveen Singh discovered historical records the Arxians had accidentally included in their cultural database. The files revealed a pattern. First contact, technological exchange, resource agreements, followed invariably by complete absorption into the collective. Species that resisted faced overwhelming force. They'd done this dozens of times, Singh reported. The collective expands by finding promising species, offering them advancement, then gradually taking control of their resources and integrating them fully. And Earth? Wang asked. Has something they want badly, Kenzo said. We've detected them scanning our system extensively. They're particularly interested in our heavy metals and water reserves. The breaking point came during a diplomatic dinner aboard the Pathfinder. Ambassador Xelther, slightly affected by Earth wine, spoke more freely than before. Your civilization has such potential, he told Kenzo. Under proper guidance, humans could advance rapidly within the collective framework. And what exactly does collective integration entail? Kenzo asked carefully. Protection, direction, purpose. Xelther smiled, showing teeth too perfect to be natural. In exchange for reasonable access to your resources, of course, and acceptance of collective oversight in certain matters. That night, Kenzo sent an encrypted message to Earth with all their findings. Recommend immediate military readiness, she concluded. The Arxians present a clear threat disguised as opportunity. 3 days later, as the Pathfinder prepared to escort the first Arxian diplomatic vessel to Earth, Kenzo received a private transmission from an unexpected source, a maintenance worker aboard Xelther's flagship, a member of a species called the Veltheri. They will subjugate your people, the alien whispered, fear evident even through the translation, as they did mine 5 centuries ago. We began as allies and ended as servants. The resources they take, the genetic modifications they implement, it never ends. Why tell me this? Kenzo asked. Because something about your kind frightens them, the alien replied. They've been watching your broadcasts, your history. They call humans aberrant warriors. They've never seen a species develop as you have, through constant conflict yet achieving unity. It disturbs them. The transmission ended abruptly, but it was enough. Kenzo ordered full combat readiness while maintaining the appearance of diplomatic preparations. That same evening, long-range sensors detected a surge of activity at the edge of the system. More Arxian ships were arriving, much larger than the diplomatic vessels, their designs clearly militaristic. They're not waiting for an invitation, Wang observed grimly. No, Kenzo agreed. They never were. She opened a ship-wide channel. This is Commander Kenzo. All hands to battle stations. Activate Protocol Thunderbird. As warning signals blared throughout the Pathfinder, Kenzo stood on her bridge and watched the Arxian warships approach. They thought they knew power. They thought humanity would be an easy conquest. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Defiance and resilience. The first Arxian attack came without warning. One moment, Ambassador Xelther was exchanging pleasantries with Commander Kenzo on the main view screen. The next, energy weapons lashed out from hidden emplacements on the diplomatic vessel. Shields at 60%, Wang reported as the Pathfinder rocked from the impact. They knew exactly where to hit us. Return fire, Kenzo ordered, her voice steady despite the betrayal unfolding before her. Target their weapons systems only, and get me Earth command. The Pathfinder's defensive systems responded immediately, delivering precise counterstrikes that surprised the Arxians with their accuracy. But the human vessel was grossly outmatched as 5 more warships closed in, their massive forms eclipsing the stars behind them. Earth command responding, Chen announced. Admiral Helena Zhao's face appeared on screen, her expression grim. We've received your data, Commander. Our long-range telescopes confirm multiple alien vessels on approach to your position. Your orders are to engage defensive protocols and return to Earth immediately. Admiral, the Arxians will follow, Kenzo warned. We're counting on it, Zhao replied cryptically. Initiate Protocol Lazarus. Authorization Zhao Epsilon 7. Kenzo's eyes widened slightly. Understood, Admiral. Pathfinder out. She turned to her bridge crew. Evasive pattern Delta. Lieutenant Chen, Transmit the Lazarus codes to all systems. Dr. Rivera, is your team ready? Rivera nodded from his science station. The package is prepared, Commander. As the Pathfinder twisted through space, absorbing punishing blows from the Archean vessels, few aboard understood the true nature of Protocol Lazarus. Decades earlier, after discovering the ruins of an ancient alien outpost on Mars, humanity had quietly prepared for this very possibility. First contact with a hostile civilization. In a secured laboratory deep within the Pathfinder, Dr. Marcus Chen, Tullia's brother, and the ship's quantum physicist, monitored a device unlike any other in human history. Created from reverse-engineered alien technology found in those Martian ruins, it had never been tested in actual combat. Quantum field stabilize, Marcus reported over the comm. Awaiting your command. On the bridge, Kenzo watched as her tactical officer, Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka, implemented a series of seemingly random maneuvers. The Pathfinder darted between the larger Archean vessels, exploiting gaps in their formation that should not have existed. They're following standard combat algorithms, Tanaka observed, predictable attack patterns designed for fighting conventional opponents. And we're anything but conventional, Kenzo replied with grim satisfaction. Dr. Chen, activate the Lazarus device. In the laboratory, Marcus pressed his palm against a scanner. The device, a spherical array of interlocking rings, began to spin, emitting a soft blue glow that quickly intensified. Across the Pathfinder, systems briefly flickered before stabilizing. Then, impossibly, the massive human vessel seemed to blur, creating multiple sensor echoes that confused the Archean targeting systems. Quantum displacement field active, Marcus confirmed. We're operating in partial phase shift. Their conventional weapons will be 40% less effective for the next 17 minutes. On the Archean command ship, Admiral Genvex stared at his tactical display in confusion. The human vessel was doing something impossible, existing partially out of phase with normal spacetime, making it difficult to target effectively. Increase power to forward batteries, he ordered. No primitive species should possess this technology. The Pathfinder shuddered under renewed assault, but held together as Kenzo implemented the second phase of her plan. Deploy microdrones, she commanded. From hidden compartments across the hull, thousands of devices no larger than insects erupted into space. Each carried a fraction of the Lazarus field technology, creating a swarm of quantum disruption points that surrounded the Pathfinder like a protective cloud. The Archeans are adjusting their targeting parameters, Wam reported. Effectiveness of the drones will decrease in approximately 3 minutes. Kenzo nodded. Time for Phase 3. Dr. Rivera, release the package. Rivera entered a series of commands at his station. From the Pathfinder's aft section, a small, unremarkable probe launched toward the nearest Archean vessel. What is that? Demanded Selther from his command center, watching the probe approach. Scanning, replied his science officer. It appears to be a primitive data transmission device. No weapons signatures detected. Zelther relaxed slightly. They're attempting communication. In the middle of battle. The probe attached itself to the Archean hull and immediately began transmitting, not a message, but a virus unlike any the collective had encountered. Designed by Earth's best AI systems based on the fragments of code they gleaned from Archean transmissions, it infiltrated their network through previously undetected vulnerabilities. Alarm klaxons blared across the Archean vessel as systems began failing in cascade. Shields fluctuated, weapons powered down, and environmental controls went haywire. Impossible, Zelther hissed, watching his advanced technology succumb to what should have been a vastly inferior cyber attack. How could they know our systems so intimately? We studied you just as carefully as you studied us, Kenzo replied over an open channel. While you were scanning our weapons, we were mapping your network vulnerabilities. The infected Archean ship drifted powerless as the virus spread through tight beam transmissions to 2 more vessels. Within minutes, half the Archean fleet was crippled. Admiral Genvex, aboard the only remaining fully functional warship, watched in growing horror. "Retreat," he ordered. "We must regroup and analyze their capabilities." But the Pathfinder wasn't finished. As the Arxian ships attempted to withdraw, Kenzo gave her final command. "Deploy the NOVA missiles." 6 projectiles, developed in secret using elements of the quantum technology, launched from the Pathfinder's forward bays. Unlike conventional weapons, these didn't explode. Instead, they created localized distortions in space-time that prevented the Arxian vessels from engaging their faster-than-light drives. "You're not going anywhere," Kenzo informed the stunned Arxian admiral. "Not until we've had a proper conversation about the true nature of your collective." Trapped and partially disabled, the Arxian fleet had no choice but to accept the human terms. Admiral Genvex agreed to a meeting aboard the Pathfinder, a significant concession that did not go unnoticed by his subordinates. When the admiral transported aboard, escorted by a security detail, he found himself facing not just Commander Kenzo, but representatives from every department of the human vessel: science, engineering, medicine, and security. "You fight unlike any species we have encountered," Genvex acknowledged, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the humans before him. "How is this possible? Your civilization is barely 1,000 years out of primitive development." "Because we've been fighting ourselves for most of our history," Kenzo explained. "We've had to become experts in warfare, adaptation, and survival against opponents who think exactly like we do. There's no standard algorithm that works against humans because we've already tried them all against each other." Dr. Rivera stepped forward. "We also recognized your scanning patterns immediately because they're similar to techniques we use to study hostile environments before sending in personnel." "You came here to conquer, not to welcome," Kenzo continued. "We detected your genetic manipulation programs, your resource extraction protocols, and your plans for Earth's integration into your collective." Genvex's iridescent skin pulsed with colors that the translation software identified as indicating surprise and apprehension. "You cannot hope to stand against the full might of the collective. What you faced today was merely an exploratory force." "We're counting on that," Kenzo replied with a cold smile. "While we've been keeping you occupied here, Earth has been preparing. The virus we deployed has been transmitted to your homeworlds through your own communication channels. Right now, every piece of Arxian technology connected to your central network is being systematically analyzed and compromised." The Admiral's color shifted to deep crimson. "This is an act of war." "No," Kenzo corrected. "This is self-defense against an aggressor with a documented history of subjugating other species. We've accessed your historical records. Admiral, we know what happened to the Veltheri, the Nomadi, and dozens of others who entered your protection." Security Chief Okafor stepped forward, displaying holographic evidence of collective atrocities against civilizations that had resisted integration. "Your pattern is clear. First comes diplomacy, then economic dependence, followed by military occupation. What do you want?" Genvex finally asked, his posture indicating resignation. "A genuine alliance," Kenzo answered. "Not submission. Equal standing, mutual respect, and an immediate end to your practice of genetic standardization and resource appropriation." "The collective will never agree." "They already have," interrupted Lieutenant Chen, looking up from her console. "We're receiving transmission from the Arxian High Council. They've accepted our initial terms." For several moments, Admiral Genvex stood in stunned silence. Then, slowly, he performed what the humans recognized as a gesture of formal respect. "It seems we have gravely underestimated your species, Commander Kenzo." "A common mistake when encountering humanity," Kenzo replied evenly. "One that rarely happens twice." In the days that followed, representatives from Earth traveled to meet with the Arxian High Council. The terms were non-negotiable. Earth and its colonies would remain sovereign. Genetic experimentation on humans was forbidden, and all collective species would be granted the right to self-governance. Most shocking to the collective leadership was the revelation that several subjugated species had already begun resistance movements after learning of humanity's successful defense. The Velthari, inspired by human defiance, had launched uprisings on 3 worlds. 6 months after the battle at the edge of human space, Commander Kenzo stood again on the observation deck of the Pathfinder. The vessel had been repaired and upgraded with a careful selection of collective technology, offered as part of the reparation agreement. Dr. Rivera joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee as he had on that fateful night before first contact. "Hard to believe it's only been half a year," he said, handing her a steaming cup. "Everything's different now," Kenzo replied, gazing at the stars that no longer seemed quite so alien. "The collective is restructuring. The forced genetic programs are being dismantled, and Earth is establishing its first off-world embassies. All because they underestimated us," Rivera mused. "Not just that," Kenzo corrected. "Because we're different. The Arctians evolved in a system with limited resources and few natural predators. Their entire civilization developed around efficiency, cooperation, and uniformity. They couldn't understand a species forged through constant competition and conflict." Rivera nodded thoughtfully. "They had power, but we had something they couldn't comprehend. Humanity," Kenzo said simply. "With all our contradictions, our resilience, and our refusal to submit." A communication alert chimed softly. "Commander," came Wong's voice. "The Velthari delegation has arrived. They're requesting permission to come aboard." Kenzo smiled. "Tell them we're ready to receive them. And Lieutenant, remind the protocol officer that the Velthari consider it a sign of respect to be greeted with a story of battle." "I believe we have a few good ones to share," Rivera said with a chuckle. As they turned to welcome Earth's newest allies, Kenzo reflected on how quickly everything had changed. The Arctians had thought they understood power. The power of advanced technology, of vast fleets, of thousands of years of galactic dominance. But they had never encountered anything like humanity before. They had never faced a species that turned its greatest weakness, its history of internal conflict, into its greatest strength. They had never imagined that their carefully calculated conquest would falter against the unpredictable, adaptable, indomitable human spirit. The stars looked different now from the observation deck of the Pathfinder. They no longer represented unknown dangers lurking in the darkness. Instead, they shone with the promise of a new future, one where humanity had not just survived its trial by fire, but had emerged transformed. Not conquered, but conquerors. Not subjugated, but liberators. Not just another species to be absorbed into the collective, but the catalyst for a fundamental change in the balance of power across the galaxy. The Arctians had known power, but nothing had prepared them for humanity's fury.